All right, coming in at number 32 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft rankings, it's defenseman from the Saskatoon Blades. It's Tanner Molendyk.
Tanner Molendyk, Ross, we had some discussions on him, and ultimately the best way to wrap up what this guy's a skater. I mean, he is a great skater. Now, how does that translate to points and to the rest of his game? We'll get into that, but right off the bat, EP loves his skating, which we've said multiple times. They are very critical of guys skating, so for them to love a guy like this, that's saying a lot. They gave him the first award for four-way mobility skater in this entire draft class and second award for best straight line skater. So right off the bat, you can tell that what this guy does and his top attribute is one of the most important attributes in the game of hockey today, and that's being fleet of foot.
67 games, 9 goals, 28 assists, good for 37 points, 37 penalty minutes, and pure skating, as Pilsy said. But what else? What else is there about Tanner Molendyk's game? And that's why, like, when I read up and saw the awards that Elite Prospects gave him, I was like, oh, I bet you they have him as a lottery pick. I bet you that they're so high on him that they won't even be able to help themselves. He might even be 10th overall. No, Elite Prospects has him at 39th, which for a skating defenseman as elite as Tanner Molendyk, that was surprising to me and made me read into it a lot more, because the others are all much higher on him outside of Craig Button, who has him at 48. Corey Pronman has him at 25. Chris Peters at 27. And Scott Wheeler at 42 as well. So 6 foot tall, 182 pounds, left shot defenseman. And then NHL Scout wrote to EP. They said his feet are great, but his brain and his hands need to catch up for it to get to the next level. A lot of times I got to see him once in the playoffs, didn't stand out much. The ice dominated that game in Winnipeg. Molendyk was -3 in that game. But a lot of the reports, David St. Louis, Mitch Brown, all these guys from Elite Prospects noted that, like, he tries to use deception when he breaks the puck out of the zone, but he's moving so fast that his deception, he'll then like cut into 3 guys. And he'll just it's flashy, but it's not efficient.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to knock a guy for being such a good skater, but there's not a whole lot else to his game that I'm really interested in, to be honest. Like, I found from some highlights I saw that I didn't love his decision making when he's deciding where he's going to be positioned. Like, I was seeing at times he's leaving guys wide open in front of the net to go attack a guy in the corner. He's not having the best gap control, and then he's got to use his skating to make up for that, which he can. He's such a good skater. He can mop up mistakes by just out skating and using his edges to get in the right spots, and that's obviously a very big thing. But I don't know, like, I didn't notice much of a great shot. I think his playmaking mostly stems from his transition game, carrying the puck up the ice. I could be wrong there, but that's an assumption I'm making. And I didn't see him putting a lot of effort into defensive battles along the boards. Like, I don't see much of a B game past the great skating. Now, great skating can make up for a lot of things like that, as I've mentioned in past profiles, but I don't know. I'm curious to see how he's going to develop moving forward.
Yeah, because it was a good year-over-year improvement for him. He was almost 20 points higher, 19 exact points higher. He played 12 more games, albeit with Saskatoon this year. But he's going to be their number 1 guy next year. They should have a decent team as well. Like, they need a big year out of him. And again, he's a guy where I would be timid because of the issues in the game outside of the skating, the issues that keep coming up. And it's not a lack of effort. Like, he's a good shutdown defenseman. Like, his work rate is high on the defensive side, and he's able to kill plays because of his great skating. But he needs to get into the right system. Yep. Like, imagine Detroit or someone was able to get their hands on him and like work with Nick Lidstrom or work with like these elite guys. Who he needs a great coach is basically what I'm saying. So, I mean, if he came to Ottawa, like, in a perfect world, he becomes like a Wade Redden type defenseman, right? Like, just a smooth skating. Like, the first pass needs to be crispy coming out of the zone. Like, that's, if I was to draft him, my first thing would be get him into a one-on-one skill development thing with my skills coach basically, and just say, hey, we're going to spend an hour a day all month just breaking the puck out of the zone, because he has the ability with his natural God-given gift of skating to be able to be one of the best puck-moving defensemen in this draft, but he seems to almost shoot himself in the foot every time he comes out of the zone, and he puts himself into more difficult situations than he needs to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, the first thing I thought of, Ross, is think of a guy like Jared Spurgeon. That's a guy that everyone applauds how great of a skater it is. And I don't think I would necessarily call Jared Spurgeon an offensive defenseman or a shutdown guy. He's just a good skater that has a well-rounded game. So my immediate thought was, hey, if he can land in Minnesota and you have Jared Spurgeon as a mentor, that makes a lot of sense. But they're drafting 21st and 53rd. I don't think that's a range that's going to really make sense for Molendyk here. So that's probably not going to happen. But that's the kind of idea I have. Like, try to get him with a team that has a veteran, great skating defenseman that can kind of point him, be like, hey, man, like, you got this great skating skill, but let's use it so that you can be a better playmaker, a guy that can break the puck up better, a guy that can be better defensively, all these sorts of things. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. I've got him at 3.5 stars here, Ross. I think the fact that he is, like, being a good skater is one thing, being a great skater is one thing, but he's one of the best skaters in this class. That's an attribute that you can bet on and you can bank on, and you can try to round out the rest of his game.
You know what the problem is? And I hate to bring him up twice in one show, but doesn't this kind of remind you of how we described Johnny Tyconic when he was drafted by the Sens?
Yeah, a little bit, but Tyconic had those offensive abilities, right? Where
he was even further ahead.
Yeah, I mean, fair point there. I don't think Johnny Tyconic was as good a skater as Molendyk projects to be, but yeah, that's a fair point. And that's the thing. Johnny Tyconic never really rounded out the rest of his game. And now you can see where he's at. He's still a nice player, but can he make that jump? Not so convinced. Yeah,
excellent player. But yeah, I think next year is huge for Tanner Molendyk. I think that he's going to, like I said, he's going to be the guy in Saskatoon, and it's going to be what he makes of it to make sure that he can put himself in a position going forward that kind of cements himself as a legit top end prospect. Because to me right now, he's a second round pick. Like,
agreed.
To me, he's a 4-star guy from pick 50 on. But I think somebody's going to fall in love with the skating and be able to reach up there from that. So I'm not as high on Tanner Molendyk, but he certainly has that wow factor when you see him out there and he's shaking around. He's trying to use deception. Like, he's trying all the right things. It's just going to take a little bit more to get him in the right spot in an organization where he's going to excel and be a 5-6 defenseman who has power play upside and who's going to be a guy who doesn't hurt you at 5-on-5 either. So lots of questions, I would say, surround Tanner Molendyk, but also a lot of upside when it comes to the skating. So that's Tanner Molendyk coming in at number 32, rounding out the first round of our draft rankings. But we've got a top 50 coming, 70 profiles in total, including bonus on the weekend. So go check those out on YouTube at Locked On Senators.